Some electric car owners are feeling fed up and are clamoring for the return of traditional gasoline-powered vehicles. While electric cars were once hailed as the future of transportation, a shift in sentiment among EV owners suggests a potential roadblock in the anticipated revolution. Despite a promising surge in electric vehicle sales during 2022 and the first part of 2023, enthusiasm among buyers seems to have tapered off, jeopardizing plans for a swift transition away from gas cars. The subdued interest in EVs prompts questions about the sustainability of the electric vehicle movement, which had initially gained considerable traction. This change in consumer attitude could undermine the previously envisioned rapid transition away from traditional gas-powered vehicles. So, what's causing this change of heart among EV owners? Let's delve into the reasons behind why some are now longing for gas-powered cars. Despite the growth of the electric vehicle market in 2023, sales haven't met the lofty expectations set early on. Despite efforts such as introducing new models, slashing prices, and offering significant tax incentives to make electric cars more affordable, the pace of EV sales hasn't picked up as anticipated. Many EV owners are feeling weary, especially after the disappointment of the Tesla Cybertruck failing to meet expectations, leading some to yearn for gas-guzzling vehicles once again. Even automakers, caught off guard by this shift in consumer sentiment, are now reassessing their strategies in response. Lately, key players in the electric vehicle industry have been making strategic maneuvers. Tesla, a major player in the EV market, has once again cut its prices. Ford, recognizing market realities, reduced production of its F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck and postponed $12 billion in planned EV investments. Mercedes-Benz's CFO, Harold Wilhelm, described the EV market as tough, prompting the company to offer discounts on vehicles. General Motors, having faced setbacks, pushed back the launch of 3 models and backed away from its public commitment to produce 400,000 EVs by the end of 2024. Honda, in light of changing circumstances, announced it was halting joint plans with GM to develop affordable EVs. These strategic shifts by major automakers highlight the complexities and challenges within the evolving EV market. At Toyota, where the focus has predominantly been on hybrids rather than fully electric vehicles, Chairman Akio Toyoda frankly told reporters that people are finally seeing reality. Even some EV owners now express a desire for gas-powered cars. But what's behind this trend? Let's dig into the burning issue. Numerous studies have indicated that EVs don't pose a greater fire risk than traditional gasoline-powered cars. However, the real challenge lies in effectively tackling an EV fire, as conventional firefighting methods often prove inadequate. While it's clear that the overall risk of EV fires isn't higher, the crux of the matter lies in the difficulty of extinguishing such fires. Traditional firefighting techniques, which typically work well with conventional vehicles, fall short when dealing with EVs. Unlike combustion engine cars, where depriving the fire of oxygen is a primary firefighting strategy, EVs have built-in oxygen sources within their batteries, making this approach ineffective. The challenge of EV fires is compounded by a phenomenon called thermal runaway. Once one cell ignites, the fire can quickly escalate, and conventional firefighting methods struggle to contain it. Extinguishing an EV fire often requires the extreme measure of submerging the vehicle in water. Even then, success isn't guaranteed immediately, and fire departments may need to take post-fire precautions, such as isolating the EV for several days. The difficulties associated with electric vehicle fires have led some EV owners to consider returning to traditional gasoline vehicles. Despite EVs being generally safe and ongoing efforts to improve firefighting techniques, concerns about fire incidents, especially those causing significant property damage, have shaken the confidence of certain EV owners. Now let's talk about the environmental impact misconception. The claim of zero emissions, often highlighted as a major advantage of electric vehicles, is being scrutinized as we examine the broader environmental impact of these vehicles. While it's true that EVs don't emit tailpipe emissions during operation, a comprehensive analysis must consider other factors affecting their environmental footprint. Unless an electric vehicle is charged directly from a solar, wind, or hydro-powered source, its environmental impact is linked to the energy mix of the electricity grid. In many areas, including significant parts of the United States, electricity generation heavily relies on sources like natural gas, nuclear, and coal. This means the environmental benefits of an EV are compromised if the electricity used to charge it comes from less sustainable sources. Moreover, studies have raised concerns about the overall greenhouse gas emissions associated with manufacturing electric vehicles. Although manufacturers are increasingly integrating renewable energy into their production processes, several studies suggest that producing an EV may emit more greenhouse gases than making an equivalent internal combustion engine car. The fundamental materials of EV batteries, like lithium, nickel, cobalt, and various other metals, are obtained through mining, a practice known for its environmental and ethical dilemmas. This connection to mining activities is crucial for EV production and extends to the infrastructure supporting them, such as charging stations. Cobalt especially raises concerns due to its links with ethical issues. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is a major cobalt source, with distressing reports of child labor prevalent in the mining sector. This raises ethical questions about the sustainability and morality of relying on such resources for vital electric vehicle components. While the zero tailpipe emissions claim has been a significant selling point, realizing that the overall environmental impact goes beyond just vehicle operation has left some owners disenchanted. Next, we'll discuss electricity taxes. Recently, there's been a growing sentiment among electric vehicle owners, indicating a recognition that the EV experience isn't without its challenges, from steep charging fees to increasingly congested charging stations. While EVs were initially praised as a cleaner and more efficient option, the realities of ownership are proving more intricate than anticipated. One major frustration revolves around the high charging fees, particularly from certain companies like Tesla, which now impose a per-minute charging fee once the vehicle surpasses 80% battery capacity at busy charging stations. This pricing strategy has sparked discontent among EV owners who now face unexpectedly high costs, adding an unforeseen financial burden to their ownership experience. Compounding this issue is the perpetual congestion at charging stations. EV drivers often find themselves facing packed charging stations, resulting in situations where some individuals are forced to wait for an available spot for extended periods. Reports have even surfaced of EV owners sleeping in their cars while waiting for a charger to free up, ensuring they have enough juice for the next day. The irony of encountering such challenges at charging stations, which are meant to offer convenient and efficient recharging, highlights the current obstacles in the electric vehicle landscape. While the growing popularity of EVs signals a positive shift towards sustainable transportation, it has inadvertently strained charging infrastructure, causing inconvenience and frustration for owners. Without adequate expansion of infrastructure and improved charging protocols, the increasing adoption of EVs could worsen these challenges. In response, some EV owners are expressing a desire to return to traditional gas-powered vehicles, shifting our focus to price and expenses. The appeal of electric vehicles has been dampened by the realization that ownership comes with its own financial challenges. One major concern revolves around insurance costs, where EV owners often face higher premiums compared to owners of traditional gasoline-powered vehicles. This trend is partly attributed to the expensive components of EVs, like advanced battery systems, which can lead to higher repair and replacement costs. High maintenance expenses further add to the financial strain of EV ownership. Despite the common belief that EVs require less maintenance due to fewer moving parts, when maintenance is necessary, the costs can be significantly higher. Battery replacement, in particular, stands out as a major contributor to these elevated maintenance costs. The cost of replacing a worn-out or failing battery pack can be a substantial financial setback for EV owners. Depreciation is another financial aspect of EV ownership to consider. Despite their initially high purchase prices, EVs often depreciate rapidly, sometimes even more than traditional vehicles. This depreciation factor adds to the total cost of ownership and may concern those thinking about the resale value of their EVs. These financial challenges have led some EV owners to rethink their decision to own electric vehicles, with an increasing number opting for traditional gasoline cars. Factors such as lower insurance premiums, potentially reduced maintenance costs, and more predictable depreciation rates contribute to this shift in preference. What are your thoughts on the current state of electric vehicles? Have you encountered any of the challenges discussed, or do you have a different perspective on EV ownership? Share your insights in the comments below. Can you guess what's shaking up the EV scene right now? The electric vehicle market is taking a nosedive, and it's happening as we chat. Brace yourself for the mother of all auto crashes. Don't even think about snagging an EV at this moment. The middle class is getting a brutal wake-up call. EVs? More like a big fat scam. Our politicians are pushing us to fork out cash for overpriced EVs while sweeping some dark truths under the rug. But fear not, I'm about to blow the lid off this whole charade. If you've been sold on the idea that EVs are the future, think again. Why are dealers fleeing from EVs? Why are over 4,000 EVs gathering dust in what they call EV graveyards? And why is Uncle Joe Biden pumping billions into EVs, yet folks aren't biting? The EV dream is quickly turning into a nightmare, and I'm here to spill the beans on why it all went south. And if you're eyeing an EV bargain, stick around, because this video might just save you a fortune. Let's get down to brass tacks. Ford, GM, Tesla, Jeep, you name it. All the big names are slamming on the brakes when it comes to EV production. Biden's peddling the EV pitch, but the masses? Well, we're starting to see through the smoke and mirrors. Turns out, EVs aren't as eco-friendly as they'd have you believe. But before I dive into the dirty details, let's talk about how this crash is going to hit us where it hurts. The EV market has hit rock bottom, taking several big shots along with it. But just how bad is it? Picture Ford selling EVs at a whopping $36,000 loss per car. Tesla's slashing prices left, right and center, with price cuts hitting 3 digits in a single quarter. Meanwhile, dealer lots are bursting at the seams with unsold EVs. And get this, used EVs are going for a steal, down by a staggering 33.7% on average since October 2022. That's a jaw-dropping $17,860 drop, with the typical used EV now fetching around $34,999, compared to a hefty $52,821 a year earlier. Even Tesla, the gold standard of EVs, is feeling the pinch in dollar terms. The Model X took a hit, down by $21,775, while the Model S and Model 3 saw decreases of $18,596 and $14,716 respectively. But what about those folks who've already jumped on the EV bandwagon? They're feeling the pinch too, grappling with 3 hefty hidden costs that caught them off guard. I'll unpack those later in the video, but first, let's talk damage control. According to the latest sales report, used EV sales have tanked by 30% this year, and new EVs are languishing twice as long on the market compared to their non-electric counterparts. Why the cold shoulder? Well, it boils down to 3 key reasons: steep upfront costs, lackluster range, and subpar charging infrastructure. Meanwhile, good old combustion cars are enjoying the limelight. They're affordable and straightforward, and they just work. And it's not just a handful of brands feeling the squeeze. Every EV maker is feeling the heat. Sales are plummeting across the board, setting off a chain reaction of doom. And here's the kicker. Used EVs are about as popular as a skunk in a perfume store. They're practically unsellable, with their values nosediving by 30% year over year. Take a peek at the Tesla app and you'll see the grim reality. A 2020 Tesla has lost half its value in just 3 years, a whopping 50% drop. And that's not even factoring in battery degradation. But hold that thought. High interest rates and sneaky dealer markups are only adding salt to the wound, making EV ownership a distant dream for many. Elon Musk, the brain behind Tesla, even hit the brakes on plans for a new factory because of this chaos. It's a big deal when the top dog in the EV game starts having second thoughts. Raw material prices for EV batteries are also taking a tumble, which might sound like good news at first, but hold your horses, it's actually a red flag. It signals a slowdown in demand and has the market feeling jittery. Even Ford is scaling back, trimming shifts at their F-150 Lightning plant. And over in Japan, Nidex shares took a nosedive due to all this uncertainty. It's a global freakout. So, what's the lowdown for you and me? Well, if you're eyeing an EV, you might want to pump the brakes. The market's in a tailspin and things are only going to get wilder. China, the biggest market for EVs, has a dirty little secret I'm about to spill. There's a so-called EV graveyard where over 10,000 EVs were dumped. This exposes the government's failure and their feeble attempts to sweep it under the rug. Both the Chinese and the Germans dove headfirst into EVs with grand visions, only to face billion-dollar losses when reality hit. Now, American customers, known for their love of gas guzzlers, have been slow to hop on the EV bandwagon. But Ford and GM have already splurged over $3 billion on the F-150 Lightning and the Silverado EV. You'd think they'd be flying off the shelves, but here's the kicker. There's zero demand for their electric siblings. Okay, so we're headed for an EV apocalypse. But what happens when these EVs are left abandoned? The environmental impact is huge. Each battery contains precious materials like nickel, lithium, and cobalt, vital resources for the EV industry's sustainability. Plus, ditching these vehicles undermines their supposed environmental benefits, which only kick in after years of use. But hold on, can't companies just stop making EVs if they're not selling and go back to gas guzzlers and hybrids? Well, they could. But a big player is calling the shots here. You can't say no to him. You can't just stop production. All you see is the middle class struggling, while the Biden administration, with its EV obsession, sends a clear message. It's EVs or bust. And those sky-high prices? They're just luring people into the trap of hefty monthly payments. How many of you watching have a car payment of over $300 a month? Dealers are fed up. So much so that 3,000 of them joined forces to give Biden a piece of their mind in a fiery letter. More than 3,000 auto dealers nationwide, spanning all 50 states and representing every major car brand, have penned an open letter to President Biden, airing their concerns about the administration's push towards electric vehicles. Their argument is simple yet striking. EVs aren't flying off the shelves as anticipated, leaving dealerships saddled with surplus unsold EVs despite various incentives and price cuts. They're urging for a slowdown in the transition and an end to the pressure on the average consumer to adopt EVs. But wait, there's more to consider. Did you know you'll also need a $6,000 insurance policy for your EV? No joke. Let's delve into this for a moment. First off, let's chat about the true cost of owning an EV. Initially hailed as the future of motoring, cleaner, greener, and cheaper in the long run, the reality of maintaining and insuring an EV is painting a different picture. Repair costs can skyrocket, especially if there's any damage to the EV's battery. Even a minor collision can result in repair bills soaring exponentially. While you might think a small dent or scratch on a battery casing isn't a big deal, insurance companies beg to differ. They often require complete battery replacements for even the slightest damage. This means going from a $1,000 repair job to a whopping $155,000 expense, all due to the strict standards set by insurers and car manufacturers' cautious approach to battery integrity. And let's not forget about insurance costs for EVs, which are proving to be yet another hidden obstacle for owners. EV owners are facing soaring insurance premiums, with some seeing their rates triple. This comes as a real shock to those who expected lower operating costs. Take Tesla owners, for example, who've seen their insurance premiums skyrocket from manageable amounts to eye-watering figures, reaching as high as $6,000 per year. This surge in insurance costs is partly due to the higher expense of repairing EVs and the perceived risks associated with their batteries. And amidst all this chaos, President Biden has issued yet another contentious anti-EV mandate. There's a fresh directive making the rounds, essentially telling federal government workers, hey, from now on, it's EVs or bust. If you don't comply, there'll be consequences. This directive means giving priority to electric vehicles, trains, and public transportation for all official government business. Back in his campaign days, Biden made some lofty promises about cutting emissions. Now, with the elections looming, he's pulling out all the stops to push EVs, even if it means phasing out traditional combustion engines. The White House is doubling down on tailpipe emissions regulations, proposing some of the strictest rules yet. Their goal? To ensure a significant chunk of new vehicle purchases are electric by 2032. This isn't just about nudging folks towards EVs, it's about making it harder to stick with gas-powered cars. Critics argue that these moves could drive up costs for consumers. And then there's the issue of EV supply and the infrastructure needed to support it. Charging stations, energy grids, you name it. There's a lot that needs to fall into place for this transition to succeed. And let's not forget the geopolitical angle. Many critical materials for EV batteries come from overseas, especially in China. So, transitioning to EVs also means navigating international politics and trade dynamics. What we're witnessing is a massive push from the US government to steer the nation towards electric vehicles. It's a bold move, ambitious even. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it all pans out. Politicians are taking the wheel, while companies seem to be brushing aside their customers' demands. But mark my words, this could all blow up in their faces. Do you believe political leaders are calling the shots in the EV market? Will EVs become more affordable anytime soon? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.